It's a tale of unexpected love in a dangerous world. Neon hues bled into the twilight sky, the New York City skyline etched against a canvas of deepening blues and bruised reds. Sophia stood in the glaring glare of a cold fluorescent office, where the hum of computers and murmurs of clacking keyboards formed a disconnected cacophony around her. Her auburn hair, once perfectly styled, now fell in tangles behind her neck as sharp green eyes struggled to meet the gaze of the editor across the sleek glass table. The editor's voice, clipped and brittle, cut through the tension. "This piece. It's not fitting the narrative we want. It's too provocative, too raw." His hand motioned toward the pristine copy of her Article A story that peeled back layers of a world both dangerous and alluring. "We can't run this." A wave of silence crashed over the room. The weight of his rejection wrapped venomously around her, squeezing the breath from her. Around the table, the eyes of her colleagues bore down, some curious, others sympathetic but schooled in silence. Their faces frozen portraits of concealed judgment. She tried to speak. "I thought," but the editor cut her off. "Sophia, this isn't the place or the time for risks. We need control, not chaos." Her jaw tensed, the sting of public dismissal burning hotter than the overhead lights buzzing relentlessly. Her carefully constructed world of truth and integrity cracked, shards shimmering dangerously beneath her calm exterior. The article, her labor of late nights and gut intuition, folded and dismissed. From the corner, a faint murmur swelled among the team, a brief, almost inaudible chorus of dissent. Sophia's breath hitched, fingers clenching the edges of the tabletop as the room's chill crept beneath her skin. The air tasted metallic, heavy with the scent of stale coffee and unspoken disappointment. A shattered phone screen lay forgotten on her desk, a jagged metaphor flickering between her and the editor. Outside, the city roared, indifferent to her fracture. Sirens wailed distantly, a train rumbled past as the sun's final embers vanished behind looming skyscrapers. The dusk's cool shadow seeped beneath the windows, a darkness pregnant with looming menace. A whisper of movement caught her eye, a crimson rose, petals velvety against the cold glass, a silent symbol of something forbidden, fragile. Her lips pressed into a thin line, yet within that suffocating rejection something flickered, an ember of unyielding spirit buried beneath layers of pain and fear. The camera closed in on the sharp glint of her eyes, reflecting shards of neon, despair, and something dangerously close to defiance. The room held its breath, the moment suspended between collapse and the first tremors of a storm awakened. Sophia exhaled slowly, the shattered phone screen catching the last light, a fractured mirror mirrored by the break in her own world. And beneath it all, the distant, unforgiving pulse of the city carried on, unceasing, unpredictable, alive. A single red petal rested on the table, stark and vivid, a promise or a warning, and the story, like Sophia herself, poised on the edge of transformation. The echo of the editor's cold dismissal still reverberated through the sleek glass walls of the newsroom as Sophia stumbled back into the sterile corridor. The soft hum of the city at dusk seeped through the open windows, mingling with the low murmur of distant traffic and the occasional serene reminder of a world alive, indifferent to her unraveling composure. Her breath came sharp and uneven, the metallic taste of frustration biting deep as she slid against the cool wall outside the editor's office. Fingers trembling slightly, she pulled out her phone, its cracked screen a fractured mirror of the day's chaos. The broken glass caught the fading light, casting errant reflections across the cold floor. A heady mix of anger and despair churned inside her. The rejection wasn't just professional, it was a raw, personal negation of her voice, her truth. Her chest tightened as the words "too provocative," not fitting the narrative, echoed in her mind, a relentless drumbeat of diminishing confidence. The usually steady pulse of New York seemed to sharpen around her. The chaos of life in motion felt like a cruel dance from which she had been excluded. The footsteps of colleagues and strangers passed by, their faces blurred, as if painted in shades of indifference and unspoken judgment. In the solitude of the hallway, her fingers flew over the keyboard, each tap a release, a defiant whisper against the suffocating grip of silence. A message to her closest friend spilled out, words laden with frustration and hidden fury at the editor's cold dismissal. But in a cruel twist of fate, the text's recipient was not who she meant. The message was accidentally sent to a mysterious contact, an unknown number that pulsed with unseen possibility. The world tilted as she stared at the sent message, the glow of the screen illuminating her sharp eyes, a moment suspended between regret and hesitant defiance. The fractured phone screen mocked her, each crack a fracture in the fragile veil between control and chaos. Then, almost instantly, a reply glimmered, a cryptic line that cut through the shadows of her doubt. It was brief, elusive, but it ignited a spark, a whisper of the dangerous and the forbidden entwined. Her pulse quickened, a flicker of adrenaline mingling with caution. The city skyline at dusk, the looming silhouette of steel and ambition, seemed to lean closer, its neon promises and dark threats interlaced in a fragile dance. Sophia's fingers hovered over the screen, reluctance wrestling with the pull of curiosity. The rose she had glimpsed earlier, a symbol both delicate and dangerous, seemed to bloom anew in her thoughts, an emblem of love found in the shadows. Her breath slowed as the noise of the city softened into a focused clarity. The shattered phone screen, the rose, the cryptic message all wove into a tapestry of imminent change that both terrified and beckoned. The camera lingered on Sophia's face, the sharp angles softened by resolve, eyes glinting with the first reluctant ember of rebellion. The distant sound of the city's pulse echoed like a heartbeat, steady and relentless. The scene closed with Sophia looking out at the cityscape, the twilight sky bleeding into darkness, the silhouette of towering buildings casting long shadows. In her hand, the phone glowed, a fragile thread connecting her to a world she'd only just begun to understand, where danger danced with desire, and every choice bore the weight of consequence. The cold glow of the city seeped through the blinds, splashing faint blue shadows across Sophia's small apartment where she sat, fingers hovering uncertainly over the cracked glass of her shattered phone screen. The message she had sent moments ago hung heavy in the dim light, a desperate venting of frustration, words tinged with raw emotion and suppressed anger that danced on a razor's edge. The realization that it had landed in the hands of a stranger, possibly someone dangerous, swelled anxiety deep in her chest. Her sharp green eyes flicked across the screen, a single notification lighting up an enigmatic reply, brief and unknowable. The words were few but rife with promise and menace, a cryptic invitation lurking beneath a calm surface. It was as if from the shadowy crease between threat and allure, a new chapter unfurled before her, drenching the room in a moody palette of indigo and crimson hues. The city skyline at dusk stretched before her window, a jagged silhouette towering against a blood-red horizon. The lights flickered like distant, silent Kulsa looming presence, both beautiful and foreboding. She felt the pressure tighten around her, the fragile guise of normalcy shattering like her phone's broken screen. Sophia's breath slowed as she studied the text. The initials uncertain, but undeniably carrying weight. Her fingers trembled as the line between professional caution and personal obsession blurred. The rose she had glimpsed earlier, that silent emblem resting unassumingly on her desk, seemed suddenly alive, its petals a delicate rebellion against the encroaching darkness. A faint cadence stirred within her, a rhythm that beat in tandem with the city's restless heart. The pain of humiliation softened, folded beneath a strange spark of intrigue and danger. Her decision teetered on the edge of unknown territories, a whispered promise that this cryptic connection held something more than peril, it could be the catalyst for transformation. The camera closed tightly on Sophia's face, the superb clarity of those emerald eyes glinting with defiance and vulnerability intertwined. The cyan glow from the phone illuminated the lines of questioning, the embers of resolution waiting beneath wounds not yet healed. In the near silence, the only sound was the faint rustle of leaves from an open window. A single petal of the dark rose quivered as if breathing, a fleeting metaphor for love that blooms amidst shadows and uncertainty. Her lips parted slightly in a breath held fast between doubt and courage. Then, With a shiver and a heartbeat, she pressed a finger against the screen, sending a slow reply, simple, deliberate, an opening crack in the fortress of her guarded world. Outside, Manhattan's amber glow flickered and pulsed, the city alive with stories untold and dangers lurking beneath the glistening veneer. Sophia stood at the precipice, no longer the girl humiliated in a glass room but a woman awakened to the perilous dance of love and risk. The scene blurred softly around her as dusk deepened, the phone's cold light a beacon and a warning. The shattered screen symbolized broken paths but also new beginnings. The rose, silent and patient, rested beside Heir, a token of the secret story unraveling just beneath the surface. And as the camera pulled back, the city skyline at night etched itself against the darkened sky, looming, mysterious, irresistibly, a world where love could be found in the most dangerous places, and where Sophia's heart now braced itself for the storm to come. The rain had retreated, leaving slick streets shimmering with the residue of a fading storm. The city breathed in a soft breath of dusk, clouded in smoky purples and the twitching neon dance of street lamps casting fractured shadows across Sophia's path. Her footsteps, sharp against the cool pavement, bore the rhythm of a heart grappling with restraint and raw, burgeoning defiance. The clatter of heels and distant sirens folded into the undercurrent of an awakening night alive with secrets and whispered threats. Sophia's gaze was steely, the once trembling pulse of rejection now tempered by a deliberate pursuit. Her auburn hair, tousled from the day's chaos, caught the remnants of fading sun, a halo of fire framing her sharp green eyes alert, calculating, daring the darkness to hold its secrets. Classic black blazer hugged her frame, the dark fabric absorbing the dim light like armor as she moved fast, blending into the flow of the city. Her phone pressed against her palm buzzed softly, a subtle, persistent pulse. The thread of cryptic messages, once mere sparks, had ignited a cautious flame within her, compelling a journey into shadowed territories she had vowed to avoid. The shattered screen glinted faintly, jagged like the fracture in her own resolve. Walking past damp brick walls draped in graffiti and broken fire escapes, Sophia navigated the blurred boundary where the city's polished veneer dissolved into the gritty, perilous fringes ruled by unseen hands. The scent of slick asphalt and distant exhaust mixed with the heady aroma of street vendors packing away the last scraps of warmth and spice. A sudden noise of footfall, too deliberate, too measured, pulled her focus. She froze momentarily, reflex sharp, eyes scanning for unseen watchers. Somewhere beneath the din, shadows shifted, tendrils of doubt snaking through her thoughts. Fear was a tight knot in her stomach, but she breathed slow and steady, channeling tension into resolve. Inside a hollow warehouse, light seeped through rusted slats, painting fractured stripes across broken machinery and discarded crates. Sophia's voice was low, almost a whisper, testing the silence. "Who's there?" No reply but the echo of her own words. Every instinct screamed caution, yet her steps advanced, daring to confront unknown dangers. The matter became personal now, not merely a story, but a reckoning. Her fingers brushed the pendant around her neck, a small, delicate rose charm piece left from her mother, a talisman of love and risk intertwined. The symbol lingered like a heartbeat, its fragile promise steering her through encroaching uncertainty. A glimmer of movement flickered in the shadows, too swift to be casual, drawing Sophia's gaze to a crumpled photograph on the floor, half hidden beneath a splintered crate. She knelt, fingers trembling lightly, lifting the image. A crushed skyline at dusk, unmistakably her city but marked by chaos, a name scrawled on the back, Lucio. Her breath caught, the atmospheric tension stretching taut. Every moment had led here to the edge of a path unknown, where danger and desire coiled tightly. The camera lingered on Sophia's eyes, the sharp glint of recognition, the hint of panic, and the flicker of determination simmering beneath. Her phone vibrated again. A cryptic message, waiting. Outside, the distant hum of the city crescendoed, a symphony of light, shadow, and whispered threats. The evening poised on a knife's edge, the first step toward a world where each truth uncovered was a risk, and every secret was a weapon. The screen faded with the subtle crescendo of a single rose petal drifting slowly through a rusty gratia silent symbol, brittle yet beautiful, marking the passage from innocence toward the dangerous allure of forbidden love and looming betrayal. The dusky streets of New York City stretched before Sophia, a tangled maze of shadows and neon flickers barely illuminating the rain-slick sidewalks. The air was heavy with the scent of wet asphalt and distant sirens, the city alive yet unyielding, a mirror to the turmoil gathering inside her. Each step echoed her mounting paranoia, the weight of secrets crushing her chest, yet tempting her with forbidden knowledge. Her fingers trembled as she brushed a loose strand of her auburn hair behind her ear, eyes sharp yet clouded with apprehension. The cryptic texts from Lucio pulsed in her thoughts like a dissonant heartbeat, luring her into a labyrinth where trust was a currency both precious and perilous. An unsteady breeze whipped past, carrying whispers from the narrow alleyways and abandoned storefronts that skirted Mafia-controlled districts, Norman's lands where invisible guards watched and every shadow might conceal danger. The city skyline, once a symbol of opportunity, now loomed like a monstrous silhouette, its dark towers blotting out the last glimmers of sunlight. Sophia's heels clicked sharply against the stone as she approached a clandestine meeting spot, a neglected rooftop garden tangled with rusted fencing and overgrown ivy. The bouquet of risk bloomed here. She clutched the shattered phone tightly, the fractured glass a fractured connection, her lifeline to a man ensnared in darkness and allure. Her breathing faltered as a figure emerged from the shadows, Lucio, sharp-eyed and composed, his presence both a threat and a seduction. "You shouldn't have come alone," Lucio murmured, voice low and authoritative. Sophia met his gaze, fierce despite the cold knot in her stomach. "I have to know the truth." A tense silence hung, punctuated only by the distant sounds of a restless city. A fragile alliance began to weave itself in whispered promises and veiled threats. As Lucio shared fragments of his double life, a kingdom of blood and silk, Sophia's world tilted on its axis, the danger palpable in every calculated word. Back on the damp streets below, whispers of her investigation stirred the underworld's suspicion. Eyes followed her every move, alliances shifted like smoke around fire. Every disclosure was a gamble, every insight balanced on a knife's edge. Sophia wrestled with mounting doubt. Was this path one of salvation or destruction? Her pulse quickened as betrayal revealed itself in colliding motives and hidden agendas. Yet beneath the fear, a fragile hope persisted, a chance for change born from the darkest corners. The camera captured her reflective pause atop the rooftop, the city skyline ablaze with the dying light of dusk, the red rose tucked near her chest catching the last raya, poignant symbol of forbidden love, risk, and enduring courage. The screen faded slowly to black, the last frame a trembling hand releasing a single red petal into the night air, suspended between shadow and light, a delicate harbinger of the storm and the promise to come. The city's pulse dimmed as twilight deepened, first bleeding warm orange skies into bruised purples, then melting into the darkened roar beneath. Sophia walked the slick pavement, each step heavy with the weight of discovery and dread. Her previous sense of control unraveled like the shattered phone screen beside her, cracks spreading until the glass was no more than fragmented reflections, fractured truths threatening to consume her. Every breath seemed caught between hope and fear, the jasmine-scented breeze taunting her with memories of quieter moments now distant and impossible to reach. The rose, a silent sentinel of forbidden love, pressed like a secret against her chest, its petals a simmering reminder that beauty and danger entwined like vines, suffocating the truths she sought. Her heels echoed sharply against darkened alleyways as she rounded a sharp corner, caught suddenly between shadows that breathed menace and the faint flicker of distant streetlights. A whisper of movement pierced the murmur of the night. Sophia's body tensed, senses sharpening into a razor's edge. From the darkness emerged Lucio, impossibly calm amidst chaos, his silhouette etched sharply against the urban night. There was no grand reveal, only the raw honesty of two worlds colliding, danger wrapped in his effortless charm, an unspoken challenge hovering in his emerald gaze. "You should have stopped," he murmured, voice low and dark, a promise and a threat entwined. His presence was simultaneously ice and fire, magnetic and forbidding. Sophia matched his intensity despite the chill crawling along her spine. "I needed to know. Even if it burns." The city around them held its breath, a moment frozen between revelation and danger. Her heart a drumbeat of defiance and despair, knowing the truth she sought bore gifts and curses intertwined impossibly. Lucio's smile flickered, half mischievous and half sorrowful. In this city, love lives among shadows and death lurks in every embrace. Her breath hitched as the truth crushed the fragile illusions she'd clung to. This was no mere story, it was a dance on a knife's edge, a journey into an abyss where the price of love was betrayal, and trust was the most perilous gamble. As the distant skyline blazed with the last embers of sunset, Sophia felt the boundaries of her world shatter and rearrange, revealing a path lined with thorn and rose alike. Lucio stepped closer, the night swallowing their silhouettes, the tension palpably thick. "Are you ready to walk into the fire?" His gaze searched hers, a gauntlet thrown, an invitation unspoken yet undeniable. The city's hum swelled a swelling tide beneath their suspended moment, as if the entire metropolis waited for her answer. Sophia's voice was barely a whisper, fierce with the edge of choice. "I'm already burning." The camera closed on the fractured glass of her shattered phone, the jagged cracks reflecting a complex mosaic of light and shadow, the world forever altered. As darkness claimed the skyline, a single red rose petal drifted slowly through the swirling air, a silent emblem of love's risk and peril, poised on the cusp of fate. The scene faded into the night's embrace, leaving only the echo of a heart irrevocably changed and a story poised on the brink of devastation and desire. The heavy drizzle turned into a steady rain that washed the city streets, turning the vibrant neon and amber hues of dusk into a muted, blurred canvas. Sophia leaned against the cold brick wall of a narrow alley, the sharp edges of the city pressing in around her like the tightening grip of an unseen cage. Her usually poised posture now bore the weight of exhaustion and betrayal. Her sharp green eyes, however, burned with a haunting hollowness that had settled deep beneath her skin. The shattered phone screen lay discarded beside her on the rain-soaked pavement, its fractured glass glinting faintly under the flickering street lamp. More than just broken hardware, it was a fractured mirror of her world, communications severed, connections lost or twisted beyond repair. The cracked surface reflected the storm raging within, silent, relentless. Wet strands of auburn hair clung to her face, and her breath came in shallow drafts, a rhythm times with the rhythm of distant sirens wailing through the city's veins. Around her, the murmur of footsteps faded away into echoes, as colleagues once allies vanished into ambiguous glances and purposeful silence. The cold had seeped through the fabric of trust, and now the only warmth came from the distant hum of power plays and whispered threats in the Mafia's shadowed corridors. Sophia's hands trembled as she clutched a small, crimson rose, the forbidden emblem that had silently crept into her life. Its velvety petals, pristine and vibrant, felt out of place against the gray despair that draped over her. The rose symbolized an impossibility, the delicate edge of love residing dangerously close to betrayal. It mocked her with its fragile beauty while the weight it carried pressed down unbearably. Her mind replayed the cascade of events, the exposure of her secret correspondence with Lucio, whispers of her connections leaking through the newsroom, the cold shove of colleagues turning their backs. Her career, once a source of pride and definition, now teetered on the brink of ruin. Safety was a concept as distant as trust. A faint gust of wind stirred the rain, washing away the droplets on her cheek as if to cleanse the sorrow etched there. But inside, the turmoil refused to relent. Every heartbeat echoed with the crushing realization. Everything she had built, the truth she had chased, was unraveling. Words escaped her lips in a breathless whisper, frail and fleeting. What have I become? The city that had once sparkled with promise now loomed as a labyrinth of shadows and silence. its implacable skyline a dark canvas spattered with flashes of distant gunfire and neon signs flickering like dying stars. Sophia's silhouette, draped in smart yet soaked attire, stood fragile against the cold fury of a merciless night. Time fractured. Moments blurred into each other indistinctly. The broken phone, the rose, the rendezvous fused into a tableau of isolation and loss. A solitary frame held tight to the weight of her breaking, the collapse of love, purpose, and identity folding in on her like the encroaching night. The scene held on her figure leaning against the graffiti-stained wall, the city's unforgiving heartbeat pulsing slowly around her, each drop of rain a silent drum of despair. The screen dimmed into a closing shadow, a world tipping into chaos, and a woman poised on the razor's edge of defeat. The cold air seeped through the thin walls of Sophia's apartment, merging with the hollow ache that gnawed relentlessly inside her chest. Night had wrapped the city in its somber cloak, the distant hum of life below now a faint echo against the heavy silence that filled the space around her. She sat motionless on the edge of her bed, the shattered fragments of her phone screen scattered across the bedside table like broken promises, reflecting faint shards of flickering streetlight from beyond the window. A single rose lay beside the broken device, petals darkened by the creeping shadows of despair. Its delicate beauty, once a symbol of desire, now felt like a cruel taunt, embodying both the fragility and the danger that had infiltrated her world. She reached out, fingertips trembling, and barely touched the rose before letting her hand fall back into her lap. The room was suffused with muted blues and reds, the city's pulse bleeding in through the cracks of her solitude. The weight of betrayal pressed down, a suffocating reminder of the path she had unwittingly chosen. Faces of colleagues who had once smiled seemed now twisted in judgment. Whispers of suspicion echoed in empty hallways, haunting every step she took. Her voice, so determined and clear before, was now just a faint murmur lost in the cacophony of doubt and fear. Sophia's eyes, sharp and penetrating in the daylight, now trembled with unshed tears, green embers dulled by the dragging fog of isolation. The vibrant woman who chased truth and justice had been stripped bare, left alone in the twisting maze of lies and danger. Every breath was a struggle beneath the crushing weight of loss. Love slipping through her fingers, trust shattered, the very essence of her identity fracturing beneath relentless pressure. She glanced toward the window. The skyline, so majestic and commanding during the day, was now a distant outline blurred by rain and shadow. The harsh glow of neon signs flickered sporadically, casting fleeting light on deserted streets, silent witnesses to the unraveling of her world. It was a landscape as broken and uncertain as the shattered phone resting by her side. Her hands clenched, knuckles whitening, yet no words came. The silence was her only companion, a vast, cold void that seemed to swallow everything whole. Somewhere deep within, a flicker of hope struggled to ignite but was smothered beneath layers of fear and doubt that the city's darkness fed greedily. In this moment, raw, intimate, utterly alone, Sophia tasted the bitter sting of despair. It seeped into her bones, a chilling reminder of the fragility of human connection, the cost of forbidden love, and the unbearable price of truth in a world steeped in shadows. The camera held close to her face the trembling pulse of her breath, the glaze in her eyes reflecting fractured city lights, the graceful arc of her trembling hands. The shattered pieces of the phone glistened coldly, a stark metaphor for the broken lines of communication and fractured trust. A single petal from the rose twisted in the air, descending slowly, a silent witness to the collapse around her. The slow, inevitable fall was a haunting image of fragile beauty succumbing to gravity, a delicate surrender to a destiny both cruel and inescapable. As stillness descended, the final image froze. Sophia seated in solitude, the rose and shattered phone beside her, poised at the abyss of giving up, as the city's dim light faded into engulfing night. The scene faded, leaving only the heavy, resonant silence of a soul teetering on the brink. The relentless rain had ceased, leaving the city awash in a somber stillness that blurred the jagged lines of skyscrapers and coated the pavement with a glassy sheen. Sophia sat on the worn bench outside her apartment building, the cold night air biting at the edges of her tailored coat, while the city's muted glow flickered distantly through a veil of mist. Her gaze was fixed on the shattered phone beside her, a vessel of broken messages, severed connections, and fractured promises. The fractured glass captured the flickering light of a lone street lamp, resembling a spider's web of lost communication where the pieces of her fractured life lay scattered. The crimson rose lay on the bench's edge, its petals splayed unpredictably, a silent emblem of forbidden love washed in the pale moonlight. The rose, once a delicate token of allure and danger, now seemed fragile and vulnerable, its beauty threatened by the cold night and the weight of secrets. In the quiet, the soft chime of her phone startled her, the screen illuminating with an unfamiliar symbol, a message glowing with import and subtle urgency. Sophia's trembling fingers moved hesitantly, unlocking a terse note. Not all is lost. Meet me, and the truth will follow. The words cracked through the silence with the weight of a whispered invitation and a salvation shadowed in intrigue. Her breath caught in her throat, her heart a volatile mix of hope and hesitation. The memory of Lucio's emerald eyes, the promise veiled inside the dangerous allure, flickered across her Minda beacon in the surrounding darkness. She felt the pulse of the city in her veins, the unyielding rhythm of chaos and desire combining in a fragile harmony. Her hand reached instinctively for the red rose, curling a petal between trembling fingers, an emblem of risk intertwined with salvation. The petal, delicate as a whispered secret, held the aching beauty of love found amidst peril. A sudden gust stirred the leaves nearby, the rustling a soft cadence that echoed the fragile tremor of her resolve. In the breath of the night, amidst the distant drone of traffic and the faint echo of sirens, there was a quiet stirring, a subtle, irrevocable shift. Sophia rose from the bench, her silhouette poised against the fragmented cityscape. In her eyes burned the first embers of defiance, tempered by fear but kindled by a relentless will to seek the faint luminescence within the encroaching shadows. The camera held on her steady step, the delicate flutter of the rose petal caught in her grasp, as the screen faded slowly to black, a silent affirmation that, even in the deepest descent, a spark of hope can ignite the path toward redemption and love. The lingering image was that of the rose petal poised in midair, suspended between darkness and dawn, a silent harbinger of transformation yet to unfold. The early morning light crept cautiously across the city streets, softening the sharp edges of the towering skyscrapers and washing the world in a fragile, golden hue. Sophia stood alone on a rooftop terrace, the chill of the dawn brushing against her skin despite the thick fabric of her tailored coat. The city's skyline stretched out before her, a jagged silhouette against the awakening sky, majestic yet foreboding, a constant reminder of the power and peril woven into its pulse. Her breath formed small clouds in the crisp air, each exhale a quiet release of the weight she had carried. The shattered phone screen lay in her palm, its fractured surface catching flecks of sunlight like scattered stars. It was a broken mirror reflecting her fractured world, yet in its cracks gleamed a promise of truth waiting to be forged anew. A solitary rose rested beside Heir, a tender emblem of the forbidden, of love blossoming in shadows. Its deep crimson petals shimmered with dew, a stark contrast to the cold steel and glass around her. As she traced its delicate curves, a flicker of warmth stirred within her, breaking through the lingering tendrils of doubt. The city below began to stir, the sounds of life weaving a complex symphony, honking taxis, the murmur of early risers, footsteps tapping a restless rhythm. Sophia's eyes, sharp and contemplative, scanned the horizon where the first light kissed the tallest buildings, igniting a fleeting blaze of hope. "It's not over," she whispered to herself, voice steady yet soft, carrying the weight of both apology and determination. The night's despair had not extinguished her spirit. It had tempered it, molding resolve from the ashes of broken trust. In the gentle light, the ascendant skyline transformed from a looming threat to a beacon guiding her through the labyrinth of danger and desire. The red rose quivered in the breeze, its petals a silent vow of resilience and risk. Sophia took a deep breath, the air crisp and invigorating. The phone vibrated once, a subtle pulse that echoed the rhythm of her new clarity. Her fingers hovered momentarily before embracing the device, ready to step into the unknown with cautious courage. The camera lingered on her face, eyes sharp with quiet revolution, lips parted in the smallest of smiles, a fragile yet powerful signal of awakening. Around her, the city awoke fully, light flooding from windows and streets, shadows receding as if bowing to her emerging strength. The scene closed with a slow pan from the blossoming rose to the shimmering cityscape, a visual metaphor for the delicate interplay of danger and beauty, love and truth. The air hummed with the first promise of transformation, uncertain, fragile, but undeniably alive. The drenched alley breathed tension and shadows, narrow walls steaming from the recent rain, the city's faint glow reflecting off slick cobblestones. Sophia's heels clicked with determined precision, each step a defiance against the storm that threatened to tear her world apart. The dark silhouettes of towering buildings loomed above like silent sentinels, blood-red neon signs casting flickering shards of light that danced with the looming danger. Ahead, Lucio Whitehead, a figure carved in elegance and menace, sharp suit pressed against his form, eyes flickering with both warmth and underlying peril. His presence was a paradox, a dangerous magnet pulling Sophia into a vortex of risk and fascination. Yet, it was within this chiaroscuro embrace that her resolve ignited. She stepped forward, voice unwavering despite the pounding storm within. "I won't run from this, not anymore." Their alliance crystallized in the charged air, a fragile tapestry woven from trust tinged with suspicion. Together, they faced the encroaching threat, a rival faction slinking in the shadows, their intent lethal and unrelenting. Suddenly, the street exploded, a cacophony of gunfire, shouts, and scrambling footsteps. Sophia's heart hammered as she dove instinctively behind a rusted fire escape, Lucio's hand brushing hers with electric urgency. Through the chaos they moved, a dance of shadow and fire. Sophia's sharp eyes caught the glint of danger, rival enforcers emerging from dark corners, cold weapons gleaming under flickering streetlights. With breath steadying, she called out, voice sharp and clear, "Stay close. We end this tonight." Lucio nodded, their partnership solidifying through bullets and whispers. Through grit and sheer will, they pushed back the threat, every breath a gamble, every glance an unspoken vow. Amid the rain-spattered chaos, Sophia's hand found the crimson rose nestled in her notebook, the symbol of forbidden desire, blooming defiantly amid ruin. Fingers wrapped around its stem as a wave of clarity reinforced her spirit. As the last rival fled into the shadows, Lucio drew Sophia close, eyes glinting with relief and something deeper. "You're stronger than you believe," he murmured. Her gaze met his, a fierce light replacing hesitation. "I've found my truth, Evan, in the darkest places." Above them, the city skyline at dusk blazed red and blue, a living canvas of danger and hope intertwined. The light pierced the residual darkness of the conflicton, emblem of battles fought, alliances forged. The camera lingered on Sophia's fierce, unbroken silhouette, framed by the soft glow of a street lamp and the fluttering rose petals caught in the wind, rising resiliently into the night. In this moment, transformation was undeniable. Pain transmuted into purpose, fear into courage. The path ahead stretched uncertain yet illuminated by the fierce pulse of newfound strength and forbidden love. The scene closed softly, the echoes of the city humming beneath an endless sky, promising that amidst chaos, light would always find a way to the surface. The relentless rain that had shattered the tense calm moments before ceased as the first slivers of dawn peeled back the night, painting the city's skyline with strokes of muted gold and pale rose. Sophia stood atop the rooftop, the icy wind whipping through her auburn hair, stirring the sharp emerald depths of her eyes into a blaze of unrelenting purpose. Around her, the expansive city breathed a sprawling labyrinth of danger and beauty illuminated by the awakening sun. The shattered phone screen, now silent and inert, lay in her palm, a symbol of broken words and fractured trust, but Sophia's fingers curled tightly around it, no longer a vessel of despair but a reminder of trials endured and lessons learned. The delicate rose she clutched, its velvety petals bathed in the soft morning light, was more than a token of forbidden passion. It was a beacon of resilience and the risk she had embraced. Behind her, the city thrummed with life in quiet harmony. The distant wail of sirens softened, the murmur of early risers floated up in collective hope. The shadows where danger once hid now recoiled before the rising dawn, symbolic of Sophia's emergence from darkness. Each breath she drew was steady, free from the tremors of fear that once gripped her sinews. Her gaze swept over the familiar yet transformed skyline, the looming silhouettes softened by the blush of daybreak, the crimson glow a mirror of the rose resting against her heart. Memories of betrayal, risk, and fractured loyalties surged and ebbed, but beneath them all lay a newfound clarity. The weight of the past was still felt, but it no longer chained her, it propelled her. A voice, steady and commanding, broke the reverent silence. "This is not the end, Sophia. It's a beginning." Sophia turned, finding Lucio beside her, not the shadowed enigma she once feared but a man unmasked by their shared trials, his eyes betraying a rare vulnerability beneath the hardened exterior. Their fingers brushed, a fleeting touch heavy with the promise of complicity in a dangerous dance. "I'm ready," she stated, voice resolute, laced with forgiveness and unwavering resolve. "Not just to uncover the truth, but to face whatever comes together." Lucio's nod was a silent pact sealed beneath the awakening sky, a union forged beyond the fractured lines of trust and fear, poised to confront the looming threats that still waited in the city's veins. The camera drew back slowly, capturing the two figures, a beacon of hope amid the sprawling urban wilderness, their silhouettes framed by the rising sun's fiery glow. The tapestry of scarlet petals from the rose echoed softly as the wind carried them upward, delicate and defiant, a visual symphony of love found amidst darkness. The scene shimmered with the quiet power of transformation, a woman reborn, a love forged in shadow, and a city that waited for her next move. Peace had not yet settled, but within her eyes blazed an unshakable purpose, a luminous light ready to carve its path through danger. The screen faded gently, leaving the lingering image of Sophia's serene face, poised in the balance between vulnerability and strength, ready to step beyond the edge where chaos and salvation entwined. Her story, yet unfinished, burned brightly, a testament to the enduring power of courage, love, and redemption in the heart of peril. The air was thick with a quiet dawn, soft light spilling over the horizon and gently illuminating the quiet streets Sophia now called her own. Her apartment felt different this morning, calmer, more tangible, a space where the chaos that once ruled her mind had begun to settle. She stood by the window, hands clasped behind her back, watching the city breathe in the early hours of peace. The skyline, still painted in hues of mauve and gold, loomed vast and still, a silent witness to her journey. In her hands, she held the rose left on her doorstep, the same rose that had once symbolized forbidden desire, danger, and unspoken promises. Now, it was a quiet emblem of resilience, a fragile reminder of the love she had dared to seek and the darkness she had faced and begun to reconcile. Her gaze traced the delicate petals, each fold whispering stories of risk and courage. The metropolis thrummed beneath her heartbeat of ambition, danger, and hope, intertwined, a fragile yet unbroken thread in her evolving story. With a deep breath, she sat down, the soft cushion embracing her as she allowed herself to contemplate the tumultuous journey behind her. Her fingers gently brushed the rose, tenderly touching its velvety surface, feeling the quiet strength in its fragile form. Memories flickered Lucio's piercing eyes, the chaos of their secret meetings, the betrayal, the love that defied worlds. Despite everything, a flicker of gratitude burned within her, illuminating what had once seemed impossible. The possibility of love amid peril, redemption amid chaos. The room was filled with quiet serenity as she stared at the skyline, the glow of dawn softening the harsh truths of her past. She had lost much: her career, her trust, her innocence, but in the ashes of that loss, she found a new clarity. The fear of betrayal, once sharp and searing, now softened into understanding. The risks she took were no longer reckless but purposeful. Her eyes closed briefly, a faint smile touching her lips. The past was a storm she could no longer control, but within her, a new strength blossomed, rooted in hope, in daring to love against all odds. The camera lingered on her tranquil face, framed by the quiet promise of dawn, the fragile rose clenched gently in her hand. Outside, the city stirred to life cautiously, a gentle reminder that even amid danger, the spirit of renewal endured. The soft hum of traffic, the distant chirping of morning birds, each sound a testament to life's persistent renewal. In that silence, Sophia understood she was no longer just a survivor of chaos but a seeker of genuine connection. Her story would continue unscripted, unpredictable, and infused with the quiet courage of a woman who dared to hope. The gentle glow of twilight seeped through the window, casting a warm, amber hue over the quiet city. Sophia sat alone in her dimly lit apartment, the rose resting delicately in her palm, its petals a tender symbol of hope and the risk she had embraced. The room was silent except for the soft rustling of leaves outside, a lullaby of change and acceptance. She gazed at the rose, its fragility reminding her of the delicate balance between love and danger, trust and betrayal. Her fingers traced the velvety petals, every touch a silent prayer for peace. The tumult of recent days had reshaped her fears, her hopes, her perceptions. She finally understood that love, even in the most perilous of circumstances, was worth the risk. The shadows that once haunted her now danced gently in her mind, illuminated by the newfound clarity that love's vulnerability was also its greatest strength. Slowly, a smile broke across her face, a quiet, genuine smile born from acceptance. She was no longer cowering in the aftermath of chaos, but standing resilient, embracing the unknown with open arms. The city's distant hum faded into a soft symphony, an ode to her inner rebirth. The camera lingered on her introspective face, illuminated by the flickering candlelight and the warm glow of the evening. Her eyes shimmered with a calm resolve, a visual metaphor for her journey from fear to courage, from betrayal to forgiveness. As she gently set the rose down on the windowsill, the scene pulled out to reveal the vast cityscape beyond, a skyline tinged with the last light of sunset, symbolizing hope shimmering amid the shadows. The world outside was still fraught with peril, yet within her, a luminous peace had taken root. In this moment of stillness, Sophia knew her story was only beginning. A story of love found in danger and trust forged in fire, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The night settled softly, promising that even amidst chaos, tenderness and forgiveness could bloom anew. The scene faded into gentle darkness, leaving a final, lingering image of the rosy, fragile yet enduring symbol standing resilient against the vast, turbulent city, a silent testament to love's power to conquer fear. The room was bathed in the tender glow of dawn, soft light spilling through the half-open window, illuminating the quiet sanctuary Sophia had fostered within her small apartment. On the table, the single rose she had found that night lay arranged like a fragile crown, its petals dewy and luminous, each one a delicate echo of the love, danger, and hope intertwined in her journey. She sat quietly, fingers tracing the soft contours of the flower, her eyes reflecting a calm that had once seemed impossible. Outside, the city's muted hum persisted, distant horns, footsteps, and the whisper of wind through the trees, yet inside, all was hushed, as if the chaos had finally settled into silence. The storm of betrayal, fear, and loss had receded, leaving behind a landscape no longer riddled with sharp edges but softened by acceptance and resilience. Her gaze lingered on the rose, a symbol of forbidden love, of risk embraced and boundaries crossed. It was a token simple yet profound, representing the courage it took to love in dangerous places and the strength to forgive the darkness that once threatened to overshadow her life. Her hand gently brushed the petals, feeling their fragile beauty beneath her fingertips. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips, a quiet acknowledgement that her story was no longer just about fear but about hope renewed, about the silent victories woven into her heart. Across the room, the city stretched beyond the window, the skyline a jagged silhouette against the awakening sky, bleeding into hues of pearl and gold. It was a visual metaphor, an enduring symbol that no matter how tumultuous the night, dawn would always break and life would continue. Sophia's breathing slowed, steady and calm, as she closed her eyes briefly, grounding herself in the peaceful present. Her journey of love and betrayal, of loss and redemption, had led her here at this moment, embracing the risk of life beyond the story, beyond fear. Silence settled softly, like a gentle exhale, leaving behind the lingering scent of the Roshan, eternal reminder that even in the most dangerous of loves, there exists a profound and lasting beauty. The camera pulled back, capturing her serene profile framed by the dawn's gentle light, the culmination of a tempest and the quiet promise of new beginnings. What would you risk for love? Share your thoughts below.